You are about to witness one of the most meticulously executed acts of psychological warfare in history. For 76 agonizing days, they did not merely imprison Marie Antoinette. They systematically stripped away her humanity, piece by piece. This all began with an 8-year-old boy. Forget what you think you know about the guillotine. The real horror lay in what preceded it. They discovered her singular vulnerability and manipulated it with a cruelty that continues to haunt the historical narrative. This is the tale of prisoner 280, and I'm about to reveal exactly what was done to her. It's July 3, 1793, late at night. In the Temple prison in Paris, the sound of boots echoes through the stone corridors, heavy, purposeful, drawing nearer. Marie Antoinette lies asleep next to her son Louis Charles, who is just 8 years old. Her hand rests gently on his chest. She has not left his side since they executed his father 6 months prior. Suddenly, the door bursts open and 6 guards storm in, brandishing a document bearing an order. They have come for the boy. What unfolds in this moment will reverberate through the confines of the prison for an entire hour. A former queen transforms into an animalistic force, a mother fighting for her child with every ounce of strength she has left. She hurls herself against the door, screams until her voice breaks, begging them to take her instead. What makes this moment even more harrowing is the calculated nature of it all. The revolutionaries have realized something crucial. They cannot break Marie Antoinette through torture or humiliation. However, they can shatter her spirit using her love. They are about to weaponize her maternal instinct to obliterate her in ways that will render the guillotine an afterthought. Stay with me because the darkness of what follows is deeper than you can imagine. But first, it's essential to understand who Marie Antoinette truly was. The woman subjected to torment in 1793 was nothing like the caricature the revolutionaries crafted. Born Maria Antonia in Vienna in 1755, she was an Austrian archduchess and the youngest daughter of Empress Maria Theresa. At just 14, she was wed to the future King Louis XVI of France, not out of love, but for geopolitical gain. Austria and France needed an alliance, and she was the pawn. From day one, the French court derided her. Being Austrian, she was seen as the enemy. She was young and inexperienced, often ridiculed for her accent and attire. Even her own husband ignored her for years. Their marriage remained unconsummated for 7 years, a humiliation that became fodder for gossip across Europe. In response, she sought refuge in extravagance, elaborate hairstyles, expensive gowns, and lavish parties at her Petit Trianon. Meanwhile, the French populace, starved and desperate, branded her Madame Deficit. Did she really declare, "Let them eat cake," when informed the people had no bread? No, that's mere propaganda. But by the time the revolution ignited in 1789, Marie Antoinette had morphed into France's most convenient scapegoat. She wasn't a monster. She was a foreigner, a woman, a queen, 3 facets that made her the perfect target. When the monarchy eventually fell, the revolutionaries needed someone to bear the weight of centuries of royal excess. They chose her. By 1793, though, Marie Antoinette was no longer the frivolous socialite. She had become a mother of 4, having watched her oldest son die of tuberculosis at just 7. She had seen her husband dragged to the guillotine and spent months confined in the Temple prison with her surviving children, knowing any day could lead to their demise. She had already lost everything: her crown, her freedom, her husband, her country. The revolutionaries were poised to show her that there was still more she could lose. Let me paint a picture of the Temple prison, designed to break spirits long before sending them to the guillotine. It was a medieval fortress built by the Knights Templar, dark, damp, oppressive. Following King Louis XVI's execution in January 1793, Marie Antoinette and her 2 surviving children, 14-year-old Marie Thérèse and 8-year-old Louis Charles, were locked in a tower under constant guard. Initially, they were kept together, and Marie Antoinette tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for her children, teaching them and praying with them, holding them tightly at night as the sounds of revolutionary mobs echoed outside. But the guards were always watching, always recording. Reporting back to the Committee of Public Safety, the revolutionary government currently in power in France. They quickly discerned that Marie Antoinette could endure nearly anything except threats to her children. They commenced a campaign of psychological torture. First, they restricted access to the children's quarters, forcing Marie Antoinette to beg for permission to see her own son and daughter. Then they stationed additional guards within their rooms, men who sat watching, documenting every conversation, every sign of affection, every tear. The children were prohibited from speaking German, their mother's native tongue. They had to converse exclusively in French, effectively state-controlling even their intimate family moments. Marie Antoinette began to crack. Her once light brown hair turned white from stress, a real medical phenomenon known as Marie Antoinette syndrome. She stopped eating and developed severe hemorrhaging, which she tried desperately to conceal from the guards. Yet she held on, bolstered by the presence of her children. The revolutionaries knew they had to take that away from her. July 3, 1793, the date that would permanently mark Marie Antoinette's torment. Allow me to walk you through the harrowing events of that night. As the primary sources, the actual testimonies of those present paint a devastating picture. At around 10 p.m., Marie Antoinette has just tucked Louis Charles in for the night. He sleeps in the same room, and she has vigilantly kept him close since his father's execution. Her daughter, Marie-Thérèse, and her sister-in-law, Madame Elizabeth, are in adjacent rooms when they hear the sound of boots, multiple men ascending the stairs. The door swings open. 6 municipal guards enter, led by a man bearing an official decree from the Committee of Public Safety. They are there to take Louis Charles away, claiming he will be re-educated by the Republic to separate him from his mother's purportedly corrupting influence. Marie-Thérèse later recounted this moment in her memoir, illustrating her mother's transformation from composed to primal in an instant. Marie Antoinette flung herself between the guards and her son, clinging to him so tightly that he awoke in tears, confused. Then she began to scream, not with the dignified objections of a former queen, but with raw, animalistic fury. "You will not take him. You will have to kill me first. He is just a child." The guards attempted to reason with her, stating that the order came from the highest authority and that she had no recourse. Marie Antoinette stood resolute. For a full hour, she physically blocked the doorway, holding her son, refusing to let them through. The guards threatened not just her, but her son and daughter too, warning that if she did not comply, they would resort to violence. Marie Antoinette persisted, but finally her sister-in-law, Madame Elizabeth, implored her to stop. The boy sobbed, terrified. Marie-Thérèse was in a panic, and the guards were becoming increasingly aggressive. In that moment of despair, Marie Antoinette's resistance crumbled. She kissed Louis Charles one last time and whispered something in his ear, something we will never know. And then she watched as 6 grown men dragged her 8-year-old son down the tower stairs, his screams echoing until they faded into silence. She collapsed onto the floor and remained there for hours. But here lies the true evil of it all. The revolutionaries didn't merely take her son. They transferred him to a man named Antoine Simon, a radical cobbler specifically chosen to indoctrinate the boy. Simon's methods were horrifying. Louis Charles was confined in a dark, windowless room, forced to wear a red revolutionary cap and sing anti-monarchist songs. He was taught to curse his mother, hurl vile insults, and repeat allegations of treason. When he resisted, Simon beat him, starved him, isolated him until the boy's spirit was irreparably broken. Within weeks, Louis Charles was parroting everything they wanted him to say, including grotesque accusations that would later be turned against his mother in the most horrific fashion. Marie Antoinette didn't know the specifics, but she sensed her son's suffering and the helplessness of not being able to intervene. It was at this point that she was transferred to the conciergerie. On August 1, 1793, less than a month after her son was taken, guards burst into her cell at 2 a.m. with no explanation, only an order. She was being moved. They separated her from her daughter and sister-in-law, refusing her pleas to say goodbye. They dragged her down the tower stairs, threw her into a carriage, and took her through the dark streets of Paris to a notorious place known as the conciergerie. If you know anything about the French Revolution, you know this name. The conciergerie was notorious as the antechamber to the guillotine, where prisoners awaited their final days before execution. Marie Antoinette was not simply being relocated. She was being readied for death. The revolutionaries sought to ensure that these final days would be psychologically tormenting. She was assigned prisoner number 280, not as a former queen or even by her name, merely as a number. Her cell was cramped approximately 12 feet by 8 feet. The damp stone walls were covered in mold. Inside, she found only a thin straw mattress, a wooden table, 2 chairs, and a chamber pot. A single candle provided light. There were no windows, only the suffocating darkness of a medieval dungeon. And here was the most insidious part. They provided her with a privacy screen, a folding partition, so she could change her clothes or use the chamber pot. It seemed humane, but that was an illusion. Because inside that cell at all times were 2 armed guards observing her every movement. When she ate, when she slept, when she changed clothes behind that worthless screen, when she used the chamber pot, when she prayed, when she cried. This was not a matter of security. She was a middle-aged woman in declining health, locked in a dungeon. This was psychological torture designed to strip away her last remnants of dignity and privacy. Historical accounts reveal how Marie Antoinette tried to hold her composure. She would sit for hours staring at the wall with a blank expression. The guards noted that she hardly spoke, scarcely moved, and ate little. But at night, when she assumed they couldn't see her in the candlelight, they heard her sobbing, whispering her son's name, Louis Charles, over and over. She developed severe hemorrhaging, likely due to uterine cancer or other stress-related complications. She bled through her clothes, having to plead with the guards for rags of humiliation endured before men who regarded her without pity. Her hair, now completely white, began to fall out in clumps. At 37, she appeared 60. Then came the trial October 14, 1793, at 8 a.m. Marie Antoinette was dragged from her cell to the Revolutionary Tribunal. This was not a trial in any meaningful sense. It was a spectacle. The verdict was predetermined, but the revolutionaries required a performance to justify her execution to the public in history. The courtroom overflowed with revolutionary officials, journalists, and citizens eager to witness the humiliation of the former queen. The prosecutor, Antoine Fouquier-Tinville, prepared to unleash a barrage of accusations of treason, conspiracy, and financial corruption against her. Marie Antoinette sat in the defendant's chair, pale, gaunt, and clad in widow's black. For 2 days, they hurled allegations at her claims that she conspired with Austria, squandered France's treasury, and plotted counter-revolution. She responded to each charge with remarkable composure and intelligence, refuting false statements, acknowledging her mistakes without pleading for mercy. She refused to be broken. So, Fouquier-Tinville played his final card. He called a witness. Jacques Hebert, a radical journalist, who relayed accusations supposedly made by Marie Antoinette's 8-year-old son, Louis Charles. Under duress, the boy had claimed that his mother had committed incest with him. Let that sink in. They accused her of sexually abusing her own child, using testimonies coerced from an 8-year-old boy in a public courtroom before hundreds of people. A stunned silence enveloped the room, even among the bloodthirsty crowd. Marie Antoinette had remained stoic through every insult and lie, but this accusation shattered her. She stood, her voice cracking with raw emotion. "I appeal to all the mothers present in this room," she declared, eyes ablaze. "Is there among you a single one who would not shudder at such a charge?" She did not address the judges. Instead, she reached out to the women in the crowd, mothers, daughters, sisters, pleading as one of their own. For the first time, she was no longer defending herself as a queen, but speaking as a mother who had been assaulted by the very child she adored. "Nature itself refuses to respond to such a charge made against a mother," she continued. "I appeal to all mothers who are listening to me." The courtroom erupted into murmurs, with some women who had come to jeer at her execution moved to tears. Even some revolutionary officials shifted uncomfortably. It was too cruel a spectacle. Yet Fouquier-Tinville pressed on, undeterred. At 4 a.m. on October 16th, following a trial that lasted fewer than 2 days, with no substantial evidence, Marie Antoinette was found guilty of high treason and crimes against the state. The sentence? Death by guillotine, scheduled for later that very day. Back in her cell, as dawn approached and death loomed closer, Marie Antoinette was finally handed a pen, paper, and ink. She could have written a political manifesto, cursed the revolution, or begged for mercy. Instead, she penned a heart-wrenching letter to her sister-in-law, Madame Elizabeth, who remained imprisoned in the Temple with Marie Antoinette's daughter. This letter is one of the most poignant documents in history. Here are excerpts from it. "It is to you, sister, that I write for the last time. I have just been condemned.